Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 144th installment of the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Ki Teze. Ki Teze speaks about the Ben Soira Moira, the wayward son. Talks about concern for property of people. Talks about male and female garments, meaning that a male shouldn't wear a female garment or vice versa. Talks about tzitzis. Talks about restricted marriages. A lot of interesting things here. So we're going to focus on one thing, chapter 23, verse 8. Torah says, you shall not reject an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not reject an Egyptian, for you are a sojourner in his land. Right? Interesting statement. Right? Focus on the latter part. The fact that we were guests in Egypt, even though we almost got flattened like a pancake, God took us out early because he was afraid we were going to go into spiritual oblivion. Right? So that being the case, okay, we were guests, but we almost got totally destroyed. Right? We reached the 48th level of impurity. It's a little bit hard to say that, okay, we were guests there, I get it, but, look what they did. So it says, Moiva Rebbe, however, going to Moshe Shlita should be well. He brings out in Tam Vidas that he brings out in the Sefer and Chumash, and he says, let's look at the following. Gemara and Baba Kama, page 92a. It says, where do I know that a person, if he drinks from a boar, right? Drinks from a pit, right? They used to have pits with water, wine, right? Different things in it. So the Gemara asks, how do I know that you're not allowed to drink from a pit or water from a pit, right? And you're not allowed to throw in it dirt, right? In other words, a pit that you drink water from, you're not allowed to throw in the dirt. Now that would make sense. Why would you want to drink it? Obviously, if it's dirty. So then the Gemara asks, where do I know it from? How do I know this to be true? Our verse, right? What does the Torah say over here? Torah says, don't reject an Edomite, do not reject an Egyptian, for you were sojourner in his land. The fact that we lived in the land of Egypt, even though we almost got destroyed there spiritually, physically as well. So they gave us shelter. They allowed us to live there. Nonetheless, even if we're there against our will, right, you still have to have a karas hatov, right? You still have to have gratitude. They gave you shelter. They gave you food. Yeah, they also almost destroyed you. So says the Gemara. The Gemara says that the well that gave you to drink, you can't throw garbage in it. Right? You cannot throw dirt in it. So too, the people that gave you shelter, gave you a place to live, doesn't matter what they did. Right? But they gave you a place to live. You're not allowed, right? You have to show gratitude. And this is what the Rambam says in his introduction to Guide for the Perplexed. Right? His introduction to Moreh Nevuchim. That he says, the Torah warns us in this verse, right? You're not allowed to reject them because of the goodness they did. Right? They gave you shelter. They gave you food. Even though they did other things, okay, but they gave you shelter. The Rebbe says, even something that's evil, something that's bad, you still have to find the good. Therefore, you're obligated to show gratitude. Right? You're obligated in what we call hakaras hatov. That's why he says this is such an important thing, that a person should try and find some goodness in a person and not just find blemishes, right? Very easy. It's very easy to find blemishes in people, to find what they're not good at, what they've done wrong. So he says, if someone tries to find the goodness, then God's going to try and find goodness with you. So this whole thing seems like a total non-starter. Now, obviously, this cannot be written by man. Because logically, and again, we try and learn things to the best of our ability, at the highest level. We try and make sense of what's going on in the Torah. We don't just read it like a newspaper. But when you read this, the only thing you do is just shrug your shoulders. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not only that, I'll tell you a Medrash. Medrash says that the Egyptians got spit out of the water, and they deserved a place to be buried. Ask the Medrash, why didn't you let the fish eat them up? Why did they deserve to be buried? Because when they saw the waves crashing in, and they saw what was happening, the Jewish people survived, they acknowledged God's greatness. They acknowledged the fact that God's in charge and God's fighting for them. And for that, they deserve to be buried. Now, if I was God, it's a good thing I'm not. But if I was God, I said, what do you want, your cotton picking head? Look in the world what they did. 80% of the Jewish people do not come out of Egypt. The 20% see all the miracles that came out of Egypt, witness miracles in the desert. They die in the desert. Because they speak Lashon Hara against Eretz Yisrael. Greatest generation in the history of man. But 80% didn't want to come out. 80% got broken by being in Egypt. So for the fact that the Egyptians, after all that, acknowledge God is fighting against them, why in the world do you have to have gratitude? Why bury them? In my language, let the fish eat them. Right, exactly what happened to Bin Laden. May rot. Threw him overboard. He deserves to be buried? Screw him. My language. Let the worst thing happen to him. So the fact that, so just add to that from our verse, the fact that the Egyptians gave us shelter, but they worked us to the bone. They went beyond what God wanted. And that's why they got punished. Because they went too far. God didn't tell them to do it. God just tells Avram, a nation not your own, is going to enslave your progeny. They didn't have to volunteer. They didn't have to beat people. Right? They didn't have to do all that. They went beyond. They beat them physically. 80% doesn't come out of Egypt. Who cares? And they gave us shelter. The fact they gave us shelter, I have to have gratitude. Says the Gemara. Yes. As a matter of fact, you do. Doesn't matter what happened there. The fact that they gave you shelter, the fact that they gave you food, is enough to say you have to show gratitude. The fact that the Egyptians show gratitude, and the fact that they say God is fighting for them, not really gratitude, but they're admitting that God's in charge, that's enough. They shouldn't be buried. That's enough. They deserve burial. That absolutely boggles the mind. What man would have come up with such an idea? Obviously, it has to be written by God because it makes no sense. Imagine Imagine Jews that, got decimated in Egypt, in Germany. You have to have respect for the Germans because at least they gave you shelter there. They let you live there. Okay. They did all kinds of other things also. I have to show gratitude. Now let's think. If a person does us a favor, got to acknowledge it. Got to realize they've done something good for us. Now, it could be it's hard for a person to do that. Okay. But the reality is, it's easy to show gratitude to someone who's done us a favor. Someone got us out of a pinch, whatever it is. Someone who made your life miserable. Even if he gave you shelter. Even if he gave you shelter, why do I have to show gratitude? It's the same reason Moshe Rabbeinu is not allowed to make the river turn into blood. Why? Because the river saved him. The water saved him. So he's not allowed to curse it. To make blood come out of it. Aaron has to do it. Because of the gratitude. If there's gratitude for an inanimate object, which water is, or anything is, right? At the end of the day, how much more so do we have to show gratitude to God for all the goodness that He does? Where's our gratitude? Where's our thanks? Make blessings, got to pray to Him. But see, people complain a lot. That's not even really the point. What my Rebbe here points out. Right, we're talking about a group of people that because they housed you have to have gratitude. So he takes it one step further. He says we have an obligation to find the good in everyone. And a person's not so nice. Because you know what? If you find something good in them and not just look for the mum, not just look for the blemish, what's God going to do? God will help you measure for measure. He'll look at you with all your blemishes and look the other way. Because the reality is God doesn't want to zap you. I mean, He may have to punish us. But He wants the best from us. He wants to find the good. Not a masochist. But you're going to tell me, I know certain people, they're just rotten eggs. They say things, they do things. You say this is a very hard thing to live up to. Never said Torah was easy. You see how far gratitude has to go. Even if someone you don't like. So isn't this good for Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah being all about judgment. All about, we're trying to find a way to win that judgment. Doesn't look like we have too much hope sometimes. So God says, you know what? There are two ways to survive judgment. One is, someone does something bad to you, look the other way. Doesn't mean you have to be a dish rag, look the other way. Because if you want God to look the other way for what you do, you look the other way for what someone else did to you. That's one thing. At the same time, find the good, second thing. Find the good in the other person, even if it's hard. Because when you find the good in the person, God's going to find the good in you. Now you're going to say that's hard. Because you may be 100% right. This person does not deserve me to find goodness in him. He doesn't. What my Rebbe here points out That even if it's hard, you think it would be easy to cut the Egyptians slack? Show them gratitude after everything they did? 80% of your nation, because of them, gets wiped off the face of the map. You lost 80% of your people. They disappear. Shouldn't despise them. Shouldn't hate them. Well, hatred's not going to apply over here. Right? What does the Torah say? You have to rebuke your people. Not people who are not your people, meaning not of your nation. But also says, V'aftarecha kamocha. You have to like your fellow like yourself. Even if you don't like them per se. Or you're not allowed to hate a Jew in your heart. You can hate what they do. You can dislike what they do. But you can't hate them. Alright, that's forbidden. But what if they cause damage? What if they do other things? I still have to find the goodness? That's what we learn out from here. Because you tell me, how easy is it to find a blemish in someone? Pretty easy. Right? Especially when it comes to family. We know people inside and out. We can say all the bad things family's done. Right? That specific people have done. We get it. And even if they've done terrible things to you, still it's good to find goodness in them. Because then God's going to find goodness in us. Never said Torah is easy to keep. You might say it's a high level, most people not holding there. You can say what you want. But this is what the Gemara says. You want to argue with the rabbis? You can argue. You think you're on the level. But the Gemara says you have to show gratitude even if they gave you a hard time. Even if they made you suffer. Very hard to do. Because the person will say, this is an impossibility. This is something God cannot expect. After all, look what he did. Look what they did to his people. Look how they got decimated. The Torah tells us. They have to show gratitude. Why should they have to show gratitude? This is a good thing for Elul. We're looking for ways to win the court case. This is extreme. That's what God wants to see. Not that we're extremists. He wants us to see how far we're willing to go in order that God judges us favorably. How we're able to win the court case. So my Rebbe says, you want to get the checkmate? You want to put God in the corner and he has no choice but has to judge us favorably? Take someone particularly you don't like. And I want you to find something good about them. And I want you to think good things about them, regardless of what they've done. I'm going to say it's a trick. Can't bribe God. You're right. Can't bribe God. God knows what's in the hearts of men. But in the end, hatred's a terrible thing. Just eats at a person. But isn't it true we feel good when we see goodness in others? It's true. But someone we definitely don't like, it's very hard to do. Now let's make it on a bigger scale. Right? Imagine an individual in God's eyes thinks to high heaven. God doesn't want to grant him peace. God wants to destroy him. Because he's done terrible things. But in the end, what does God really want? He doesn't want us to suffer. He wants to be lenient where he has to be. He doesn't want to throw the book at us. If we deserve it, we deserve it. But imagine the impression it makes when a person tries to find goodness in someone that he really doesn't like. You'll say God doesn't have to do it with us. If he really dislikes us, he'll give us plenty of money and say, scram, I don't have anything to do with you. And many times we may go against what he wants. But in the end, it finds favor in God's eyes. For one very simple reason. Because it's very easy for a person to hate someone else. Even for a minor infraction, a person can say, okay, this guy's puzzled. This guy's blemished. Never have anything to do with him. Or he can continue doing terrible things, whatever it is. Doesn't mean I have to be best friends with them, or even friends with them. But imagine how it looks, as bad as the person is, that you look at the good side. We're very good at looking at the bad side. Did this, did that, did the other thing. Doesn't give me respect. Doesn't care what I have to say. Only makes fun. Plenty of things that could raise a person's ire. That being said, imagine still finding the good. Doesn't mean you have to love them. Doesn't even necessarily mean you have to like them. But isn't it true that the more good we find in a person, the more we're probably going to like them? Now again, you can say it's all a farce. This is the reason you have ulterior motives. But in this case, it doesn't matter. Because the ulterior motives can lead to something good. And even if the person themselves are bad, and we realize they're bad, but at least you try and say something nice about them. Find something nice about them. Finding their blemishes and slaughtering them. Anybody can do that. The great people even find the goodness. Right, two rabbis walking on the way. They see a carcass. Animal carcass. One of the rabbis says, oh, what a stench. I mean, smelled, obviously. The other rabbi says, what beautiful teeth it has. Different ways of looking at the same thing. Different perspectives. Did the second rabbi say it didn't smell? No. But he spoke in the positive. Right? There are times there's an obligation to say something is not pure than say it's impure. Saying it's impure is a negative thing. Right? It's a negative connotation. Saying it's not pure, what does that mean? It means it's impure. Right? That's simple explanation. But I didn't say it in necessarily a negative way. Not pure and impure may be the same thing, but it's a totally different way of saying it. It's a different way of looking at things. It's more positive. Then you tell me, but someone who's really evil, I'm not allowed to praise him. You're right. Different halachas about that. True. You can also find good in them. Take a mafioso. Use as an example. Luigi. Vinny. He's a mafioso. You look at him as card shark, money launderer, drugs, this, that. Horrible individual. You can also say what an unbelievable respect he had for his mother. For his father. Look at the Kibbutz Aveim by Vinny. Tremendous. That mean I like what Vinny does? No. Could I think of 100 epithets to say about Vinny? Yes. Does it make me love him? Certainly not. But you can see certain character traits that are good. Nobody's that bad. You don't have something good to say about them. But you say this goes against my nature. Someone's done things against me, said things. Why should I look for the good in them? Good question. And it's just the opposite of what you would do. Right, 100 million trillion years, this is not on your radar. Your relatives always obnoxious, always say things, always you fill in the blank. Why would the Torah obligate me to find something good about them? This is exactly what my Rebbe says. That just like what happened in Egypt, we have to show gratitude and find the good. So too other people. Because imagine the positive effect it has on a person. Does it make you a wuss in my language? It shows godliness of Adam, shows the greatness of a person. Because someone you say, don't you know what Vinny does? All these terrible things? You're right. He does terrible things. But it doesn't mean he does everything terrible. It's very easy to find the blemish. Isn't that what society is? Isn't that what the internet is? Finding blemishes with everybody. Complaining about this, complaining about that. Lashon hara. It's all true. Finding the positive. Now obviously you got to be careful. Because you're speaking about this person to other people. There could be all kinds of lashon hara involved. A person would say, really? Vinny? You want to say Vinny's got good character traits? Say Vinny's this and Vinny's that. And leads all kinds of lashon hara. So I wouldn't say it to the masses. Or even friends. Like, keep it to yourself. But you tell yourself, look, he's still got good character traits. He's not totally bad. It's not going to convince you to be friends with him. Or have any kind of connection. What it does is it lessens the hatred. It lessens this idea of bashing someone. Because yeah, people may get off on it. It's very easy to do. But at the end of the day, what does it say about us? We want to work on good qualities, on good character traits. Try and fix up our negative ones. That's all good. I think one of the negative character traits a person can have is always finding fault with others. If you find fault with others, the fault's probably within you, the same thing. That's what the Talmud tells us. You want to find the blemish in someone else, you probably have the same blemish. So it's really catch-22. But it's mind-boggling. This is how far the Torah wants us to go. The Torah says, you have to love your brother. Seemingly if he's doing the wrong thing. Now that means I have to, I'm allowed to hate what he does, but I can't hate him in my heart. What if the person is just no good? And the majority of things they do are no good? It's hard. Because really the bottom line is I think people who are more positive have less stress. I mentioned earlier my Q&A the difference between Rabbi Kiva and Nachum Ish Gamzu. Rabbi Kiva said, Kol David Rachmanu L'Toivavid. Everything that God does is good. Says his Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu said Gamzu L'Toiva. Everything is good. No hands, no legs, right? No arms, no legs. Boils all over his body. Everything is good. There's no bad. Difference in perspective. So somebody like that's not going to find the bad in someone. It's got a whole different outlook in the world. You want to say he's naive. You don't really know. There's plenty of things you could say. At the end of the day, gratitude, even if people caused you pain, you still have to have the gratitude. And you have to show it. It's a hard thing. I don't think there's any question. But imagine the imprint, the rosham that it makes on God himself. Because you are now telling him, this person is a schlep. He's a disgrace. And he does this. And he does that. And he does the other thing. It's all true. What will we say in the vernacular? I'm bigger than that. I look beyond that. I don't say the person's necessarily good. But I see that he's got some good qualities. Now, I guarantee you 99% of us would say, I don't care if he's got good qualities. We'll name 20 qualities that are bad. That'll offset the good qualities, we'll say. God says, why do you have to do that? Imagine the positive effect it has on you. Doesn't mean this guy's whistling Dixie. Doesn't mean you love him, per se. But you look at him in a different way. Because the reality is, the way God looks at us, we all stink to high heaven. Right? And the angels are saying, do this, do that, do the other things, and they don't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. True. God says, look at the good. What about the good that they do? It's not worth anything. Person tries, okay, fails in other ways. I get it. But if I would do things only according to divine judgment, everyone would be dead. So there has to be compassion, but how do we awaken that compassion? We go to the other extreme. When it comes to judgment, you want God to look the other way? Someone does something to us, look the other way. Measure for measure. That's what you got to do. And it's a total opposite of what we would think. And it seems illogical. But it makes a lot of sense. Because the reality is, regardless of what the Egyptians did they or did they not give them shelter? Gave them shelter. They gave them food? Gave them food. Took care of more or less their basic needs? They did. Okay, did other things wrong? But can we deny what they did? No. And that's the extent we have to be thankful. It's a revolutionary idea. Because at the end of the day, the person is just going to shrug their shoulders and say, come on. How far do you have to go? Well, the Torah says the Torah's not in heaven. And if it were, you'd have to jump to get it. So we've got to take the message and implement it. There are a lot of things we learn out from the Torah. Question is, do we take it to heart? Do we do what we're supposed to do to the highest level? Answer is probably not. God wants to see the effort. He wants you to see that you're making the effort. Even if it doesn't make any sense to you. First thing we have to try and do is understand what it says. Right? That's what we did. Then we have to analyze. Okay, in the Torah's eyes, what does it mean? Because in our eyes, a lot of sense it doesn't make. Right? Comes along the Torah. And the Torah says, this is what I want. This is the level of Hakaras HaTov. The level of gratitude. Whether you think it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. It's an unbelievable thing. Because at the end of the day, looking for the good in a person is not a bad thing. It may be hard because of what people have done and what people have said. And they may deserve our contempt. But I'll ask you the $1,000,000 question. If we find the good, if we find the positive, doesn't it show we're better than them? We're bigger than them? So you're going to say, where do I draw the line? What does the person have to do? To deserve this? They're creating God's image. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. Some more, some less. But you want a good judgment? You want God to look the other way? Start looking at people in a positive light. You can exude that positiveness even if it's hard. Even if they don't respect you. Even if they say things against you. Hatred, negativity, 100% will destroy and eat up a person. And people will tell you it's not worth it. Psychologists will tell you, what are you eating yourself up for? They're not worth the time of day. Maybe true. But a person may feel, if I let this anger go, and I put out these positive vibes, even just to myself, then I forget what they've done to you. So the question is, how long are you going to feel wounded? Life goes on. Isn't it better to look at people as messengers? Right? When you whack the messenger, right? The person hits the dog with the stick. You got to realize who's wielding the power. So whatever happens in most cases, God's the one putting things together. And He wants you to deal with it at a high level, even if it's hard. And imagine what happens when you pass the test. You got to find the good. You got to find the positive. Even in Egypt, there's enough positive not to hate. A lot. Just because of the goodness that they gave us. But the bottom line, I can speak about it till I'm blue in the face, and you're going to say, Rabbi, that was a great talk. Impossible. Okay? I didn't say, never said it was easy. But the Torah expects great things from us. And imagine what a person can do when they think in those terms. So I want to remind people I have a question and answer session every week, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning New York time, 5 o'clock Israel time. I have a class, Duties of the Heart, live every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock New York time. And I have a class on the book of Leviticus every Sunday, 9 o'clock New York time, book of Leviticus chapter 10. If anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wishing everyone a great Shabbos.